1.
Y'all, we need to talk. Because I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room here. And I'm very sick and tired of everyone acting like we're okay with Mercedes' finisher. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. I don't understand on a physiological standpoint, bro. How am I supposed to scoop somebody up on my back and then fling them off like a motherfucking backpack? Is that supposed to do anything to anyone and be devastating?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2, season 4 of Culture 316. I'm one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Nahisi.
Join with your co-host, who's still hot and heated over this particular move. Mo, what is up, people?
And thank you guys so much for joining us for the second episode of the 4th season of Culture 316. Once again, if you are listening on anywhere where podcasts can be streamed, be sure to give us a thumbs up or 5 stars. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever the case may be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have a pretty stacked show for y'all. Also, just to make y'all aware, May 6th, we're going to be doing a Space for Backlash, and hopefully y'all can join. It's going to be great, per usual. But anyway, we're going to get right into this from the tippy top. So, Asuka this past year competed in her 5th WrestleMania match, and with her loss to Bianca Belair, she is currently 0-5 at the show of shows, but this time she had a new presentation in character. So do you believe that she has been ruined because of how she's been booked over the past 5 years?
Yes. And it started with Charlotte, and it continued with Bianca. And it sucks because I adore Bianca, but I just feel like you got to call a spade a spade. And I feel like there's the 4 horsewomen at top, and there's Bianca, and there's supposed to be Asuka. And the people who say Asuka and mention her is because we watched her work in NXT and we know what she's capable of. And if you obviously are like a fan of stuff that's in Japan, then you know who Kana is. And I just feel like, all right, Triple H treated her like perfect. He booked her perfectly. She never looked more dominant and threatening than in NXT. And she came up in the main roster, and then, Charlotte slaughtered her because, Vince McMahon is who he is. You know what I mean? And she never quite recovered. After that, she just kind of became like just this gimmicky act, which you know how Vince McMahon is when it comes to Asians. I don't know why, but he likes to do this thing where he makes them all look crazy. I think Gail Kim even referenced this before in an interview where he just boxes them into stereotypes. And the thing is that Asuka was a little crazy in NXT, but it was because she was actually threatening crazy, whereas she came off like a goofball for a lot of her run, And I just feel like as a fan, I'm over here just waiting for her moment, for her to shine, and for her to feel like the way she felt at NXT. So when she came out with this kind of character, I was so excited. I'm like, all right, this is a new era of Asuka. I like that. Like Hunter, you're bringing back the NXT Asuka, and it's just the only way you could have had established this character is to make this new threatening character, right? Because I'm not saying she's a mythical character, but she's supposed to be a rarer form of Asuka, correct? A more threatening form of Asuka. If she can't even take out Bianca, then I just feel like the character can't be established as being threatening. It's kind of like our argument with Finn Balor. Even though, again, I know he's a demon, so that's a little different. But I feel like, what's the point of showing up in your rarer form and trying to establish a superstar and putting this feud together, and they can't deliver? Because she hasn't won. She could have benefited from at least one. And I'm not blaming Bianca for this. I'm not saying she's selfish. I'm not saying she's not giving back to the division. Let's not make that this argument, y'all, because y'all been hammering my girl on Twitter saying that she's selfish and she's been hogging the title. There's nothing to do with Bianca. I understand why they gave it to Bianca, because she had a show to go on after with the title, and it was all about sponsorships and presentation, and it's easier to have someone who looks marketable like Bianca with the belt as opposed to someone that's painted and colorful like Asuka, and the language barrier issues. I understand that much, but I just feel like you're wasting Asuka at this point, and I don't even understand why she's here. I don't. At this point, I feel like she needs to go to a different promotion because she's not being utilized properly. And she feels very regular. And it makes me upset because she's not regular. Nothing about her moveset, nothing about her look, nothing about her is regular, but besides the way that they choose to present her. It makes me upset. So I was not happy with the finish. The match itself was good. It was definitely hard hitting. I wouldn't put it at the top 5 matches for WrestleMania, to be honest. But it was a good match, but it would have been better if she won. Or if she lost, follow what Jordan had mentioned from the last podcast we had, where she does something heelish afterward and attacks Bianca, which we didn't get. So it's just like, what was the point of pulling this out? Were you trying to just do it so for the presentation and the entrance and the theatrics? What was the point? Was it because you guys don't know how to tell a story with Asuka because she's Asian? Like there's so many questions to ask, and it gets me more frustrated because she's not hard to book. She's not. Just let her be, let her do her thing, let her dominate, and let the character speak for herself. That's my ick. But I want to hear your take on it.
So I actually agree with you. I do believe that Asuka has been ruined in some sense, and I think that the beginning of the end was her losing her streak at Mania, as far as her undefeated streak and Charlotte beating her. It's funny. It's funny because some of these booking decisions, I could understand why another person won, but at the same time, I also understand that Asuka was going to suffer as a character as a result of that. You know what I mean? And so I think that is just really, really unfortunate because I think that Asuka, like you said with the Gail Kim character, well, not the Gail Kim character, but what you said with Gail Kim as far as her comments regarding Vince McMahon, as far as putting, women of color in a box. And she said, I remember specifically Gail Kim said something along the lines of, it's not about, the type of people that you have in your company. It's about who you position at the top, because it says a lot about who you deem as a main event player. And, if you're always putting, white women at the top, if you're always putting a blonde hair, blue eyed woman at the top, then it shows you what she sees as a top performer. And seeing only top performers that are white in WWE paints the perception that they only perceive those people to be top players. Now, we've gotten Bianca Belair, we've gotten Sasha Banks and Bayley in the past few years, and we have some exceptions to the rule. But the fact that Asuka was presented as this dominant woman in NXT and booked correctly down there because of Triple H, and when she gets to the main roster, she's kind of fumbled, just kind of shows you, I believe, how Vince McMahon saw Asuka more than anything. Now, granted, we got this new repackaged, great presentation of Asuka now, but part of me feels like even if she were to win at this Mania, I think it's too little too late, because you've put her up against some of the best women on the biggest shows, and you've had her lose pretty much every time. And so I think that because of that, even before her versus Bianca Belair, she wasn't necessarily heavily favored, and she wasn't necessarily booked correctly. And that's really just like my opinion on Asuka. And I think she even had like a tweet where she was like, I'm 0-5. Like, what would y'all feel like if I went to Japan and, treated correctly? Like, and she has a right to be frustrated because she is one of those women that are that good, that great even, and always puts on great matches regardless of what position you put her in. She's always at least attempted to make it work. So I just think that they did ruin kind of Asuka's mystique and dominance and power, and it's just really, really a shame to see. But I definitely want to hear everybody else's take on it as far as what you believe about Asuka's booking. Leave it in the comments below, but we're going to move on. So speaking of disappointments, phenomenal talents that have been mistreated, there's been recent speculation that Seth Rollins isn't necessarily satisfied with his position in WWE. He's made it pretty known publicly. I mean, it could be a shoot or it could be a work, but it looks like he is not necessarily pleased with where he is in the company. I wanted to know, do you believe that Seth Rollins is underappreciated?
Honestly, no. Like, because what is he missing? What is he lacking? What is he searching for? Is it a money thing? Is it a booking thing? Does he want the title belt? Because I feel like he's in like a really good position. He's in a position that if I were a wrestler in WWE, I would love to be in, because no matter where he goes, the fans love him, eat him up. They're singing his song even after when the music cuts. They're singing it throughout the match because we know that every single time Seth's in the ring, it's a banger. That's number one. Number two, I feel as though that when it comes to Seth, like, he's one of those people where he's so freaking good that, like, he's that go-to person that they throw someone to him when they're trying to, like, lift them up and therefore elevate the whole division. There's so many, like, superstars that had to walk through Seth just so they could get established, because Seth could always bring someone to their best match. But it's not like with Sasha Banks, in my personal opinion, where it's just like they were constantly just making her, like, lose all the time and making her look pathetic. Not that Sasha ever is pathetic, but I feel like when it comes to Seth, he doesn't need a belt. Is that Mike? I don't know. My mic's doing that. Anyways, when it comes to Seth Rollins, I feel as though when it comes, like, he like is the person that you use when A, you want to put over other talent, but B, he's also the person where he doesn't need to be in a title picture or have a belt to be relevant. That's the best part about Seth. He's intriguing. He's innovative. Obviously, he's been switching up his looks and stuff like that, and he always has something that's just like gravitating to the eye with him. But I just like love his character. There's been a steady evolution. There's many different eras of Seth that I love. I feel like he is the person that you go to when you want interesting storylines. You know, of course, a title picture is better when there is a story there. But there's some people that they kind of just need to be in the title picture just because that is their character. But when it comes to Seth, he doesn't need it. Like, I don't feel like even right now I care to see a belt on him. Not because he doesn't deserve it. Does he? Yeah, but I just feel like I'm cool watching him do what he's doing because he feels like a main event guy. Yeah. He kind of is like the Johnny Gargano for like the main roster when it comes to pay-per-views, because he's always on the card. Why? Because Seth is watchable. There's very few things that's watchable on WWE, but when Seth's on TV, I want to know, even if it's like a short segment, you know, he's backstage and he's with like an interviewer or something like that, or he's doing some silly thing with Ali, or just he's just coming in the ring, just raising havoc, or even when it's just a match in general, bro. Because like everything he does, everything he touches is gold. So I kind of can't understand why he wouldn't, you know, want to stay with this company, because he's like in the best position possible. Like, you're that cool. Like, the fans love you regardless. And I feel like, to me, the company treated him pretty well. He was always the most likable Shield member off of him just being him, no matter what he was doing. He never had a low or a flop era to me that I can at least think of. Can you name one?
I don't think so.
So what would you think would be the connecting reason that he doesn't feel appreciated?
I think he feels underappreciated because he feels like he should be where Roman's at. And I feel like he wants to be the guy with both belts. I feel like he wants to be the guy that is the undisputed main event of every show. And I can understand why. Because to be completely honest, Seth Rollins, and I've been saying this for a couple years now, Seth Rollins is the best pro wrestler on the planet because he's in the biggest wrestling company and he puts on the best stories and the best matches, and he's been able to create memorable moments with pretty much anyone. We can talk about Cody. We can talk about KO the year before. We can talk about Logan Paul most recently. And I can see why he feels underappreciated, because he feels like he's a top guy and he feels like he should be the guy who is the face of the company and the undisputed Universal Champion. Now, somebody, I forgot if it was Twitter or Instagram or another podcast, but they said something that was very, very true. They said that Roman, and I think maybe even Seth said this, Roman is more of a Hogan, Cena, Rock kind of guy. Seth Rollins is more of a Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero caliber talent. And
he's great. Aren't they epic? Aren't they both epic?
They're great. I think that they're great. I personally love Shawn. Shawn Michaels is in my top 5. You know what I'm saying? Eddie Guerrero is in my top 5. But I feel like when you are looking at it from the standpoint of, well, Roman's the guy and I want to be the guy, And if I'm not there, then I don't feel appreciated. Then I can see why he feels underappreciated. But I honestly, like you said, Seth Rollins, in my opinion, is one of those guys. Like, I feel like certain people need the belt. I feel like certain characters need a belt. Seth Rollins isn't one of those guys. Seth Rollins doesn't need a championship at all because he doesn't need it. I feel like the belts have become so essential to Roman's character that if he doesn't have those belts, his character is a little weaker.
Like Charlotte.
You know what I mean? But I feel like Seth Rollins has built himself up to the point where he doesn't need the belts. The belts need him. And that's the reason why I felt like he had to run with the U.S. title, was because the U.S. championship title picture needed Seth Rollins, not because Seth Rollins needed the United States championship. And I think that's a great place to be in when you don't need a championship. But, you know, only Seth Rollins knows how Seth Rollins feels. And I'm not going to sit up here and say you shouldn't feel or you should feel this. But I can see why he's saying that. But you know, I personally believe that Seth. Yeah, listen. I feel like Seth Rollins is the best pro wrestler in the world. I feel like he's done some amazing things over the past couple years, and that's like just where my head is at as it pertains to Seth Rollins. But I want to know what everybody else feels. Do you believe that Seth Rollins is underappreciated? Let us know in the comments. But we're going to move on. So, speaking of Seth Rollins, his mentor Triple H had a very important announcement this past Friday on SmackDown as he announced that the WWE Draft will be making its return. He also promised that this particular draft will change the game. Do you believe Triple H? What do you believe that Triple H has in mind for the draft, and are you excited?
I'll be honest, I don't know what to expect outside of like call-ups. Like I could see like someone like Braun Breaker being like bought up or something like that. But as far as like who they're trying to switch over from brand to brand, that I cannot say. Just because the show has been falling kind of flat for me, outside of like the people that we did see on the main card for Mania. So I don't know what way that they would like shake it up outside of calling people up, because some people I feel like could afford to be called up, like Tony D, Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller would be freaking awesome to see being called up. But I want to see some new faces. Do you have any suggestions that are going to be drafted over?
So, funny thing is, I don't know if you've been watching NXT since Mania, but NXT has been cooking. Braun Breaker turned heel. Mm-hmm. We're getting a fatal four-way match for the number one contender for Melo's title. So NXT has been cooking on all levels. I feel like Braun Breaker being a heel is going to be for the purpose of putting someone over. So I wouldn't want to necessarily see him leave yet until that job is done. I also believe that Grayson Waller is someone that I want to see win a championship in NXT before he comes up. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we're going to get too many call-ups. I think that as far as people switching rosters, I think that we're going to see probably Seth Rollins on SmackDown. I think that can be the biggest one, but I don't even think that that's going to be the biggest surprise in this year's draft. I think Hunter's probably going to split the titles. I think Hunter is finally going to split the WWE and the Universal titles, or rebrand the Universal title. I think that Triple H, I mean, we've been hearing reports for weeks now that Triple H has approved a set of new championship designs. So I think that we're going to get a split in the titles, and I think that we're also going to get whatchamacallit. I think we're just going to get new championships. And I don't think that that's going to jeopardize Roman in anything that he's doing really at this moment. But I do think that we're going to get new titles. Because when you say, oh, this is going to change the game, usually I'm thinking new championships or a major free agent signing. And I feel like the major free agent signing that could have happened was Jay White. Obviously, he's in AEW, so that's not a thing anymore. So I think that it's going to be new championships.
Yeah, I was praying he was
in my personal opinion.
No, yeah. And then I'm trying to think about the females right now, because I'll be honest, the women are also slightly sort of boring me at this
Yeah.
point. I would like to see some faces change, but I do think they should do some call ups with the women from NXT. I feel like Nikita would be like the biggest prospect that they would like want to bring up to the main roster. Where I feel like she would be controversial enough to like create some ratings in a good and bad way. So if they want to spice it up, maybe do that, because I feel like as far as the women division go, I'm a little bit bored. Like I like Rhea and I like Bianca, but I just think they need new faces to go through. Not saying like they need like I want to see new stars be made that are from NXT through the women that they have right now. So I feel like, yeah, if they call up Nikita, that'd be great. Who else would I like to see? Cora Jade, I feel like, is like their star over there. Like they really like her down there, so I don't really see them calling up her. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, I love Soroka so much, but I know she has to stay down there. If they brought her up, oh my god! Like I could see so many good SummerSlam moments. I want to see her versus Bianca so bad. Like
that would be a tough match. Yeah,
I will forgive you for Kana if you could give me Soroka versus fucking Bianca Belair, because the athleticism, I would have seen nothing but flips going all around with
but
the
like
two
good
of them.
flips, not like a bunch,
not
of
gymnastics, just like solid, like solid. And can you imagine if you threw them with Charlotte? I know they're on different brands, but that'd be an insane triple threat between the three of them. Oh my god, I could
that would go. I feel like Roxanne is another one that I would love to see on the main roster.
Roxanne,
as far as like just the women, I do think that there have been some interesting things with the women though, like Trish Stratus turning heel, and we obviously don't know what happened to Lita backstage before that tag team title match. So I think that you have stuff cooking in some areas.
Yeah, but they're not permanent. Like when I'm talking about the roster, to me, they aren't the roster. They're just guest stars right now.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And they more or less are probably doing that so we could get Trish and Lita doing something against one another. Not probably not a 1v1. Huh?
I was going to say, or a Trish, Lita, Becky type of situation.
Basically, you know what I mean? Because obviously we haven't seen heel Trish in God knows how long. So what they're doing with that is amazing. And I love that they're giving back to the division in some shape, way, or form. But man, like some people like Becky have, to me, fallen just a little flat. Right. And it's just a shame. I'm not sure if it's because like when it comes to women, you normally don't see them around for this long. So they have to do something and reinvent themselves to be interesting, you know?
Right.
And this is not to slander women, because I want to see them around for a long time, but they kind of have to do something different. And I feel like Becky was on a high, then she went away and had her kid, and then I just feel like she hasn't felt the same to me, or she kind of just comes off like a shell of herself, or she's just going through the motions. I just need something new and refreshing in the women's division desperately, just so it could benefit everyone's reign a little bit more. So I'm interested to see what direction they're going to head with Rhea, with who they call up, who they place her around. I see nothing but good with her. But Bianca, if they're going to go with the Super Cena role, I need a new face, and I need storylines with actual like substance. And I'm not sure if that comes with new women or just better storytelling or both, but something needs to change here. That's my end of my rant.
I think it's a combination of both, but I think we're going to end that segment on that note. Let us know what you feel about this upcoming WWE draft. What are you looking most forward to? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to get new championships, new champions? Let us know in the comments below. We're moving on. Yeah. So, speaking of Triple H's, seems like his one of his arch nemesis may be returning in CM Punk, because on a recent podcast appearance, Dax Harwood says that he's been in constant communication with CM Punk, says that CM Punk misses wrestling, says that he wants to come back, says that he wants to work with the Elite. Can you see CM Punk making a return to AEW at this juncture? Do you think that they have reconcilable differences, if that's a term?
I mean, at the end of the day, Tony is about his money. And bringing back CM Punk is going to shoot up the ratings, because it's been how long since we've seen anything of CM Punk? how long ago was All Out? That was like in September or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, they're going to reconcile. They're going to deal with it because, like, that alone, fans are going to want to see, like, what's the heat, what's the tea. You know, they're going to look for little itty bitty things. Are the promos
Right.
going to be petty? You know, are they going to be like stiff in their hits in the matches or whatnot? What position is CM Punk going to be in if they bring him back? You know, are they going to put him in a higher position? Are they going to make him work his way up? There's so much that could go into just bringing CM Punk back, despite the fact that I still dislike him. You know what I mean? And I also feel as though, this is just my personal opinion, and I'm sure everyone here is going to feel differently about it. I don't think he has anywhere else to actually go and feel usable. I don't feel like there's anyone in WWE that I care to see CM Punk work with. I feel like his initial promo will be interesting, but the most money and the most attention, the most interesting he's just going to be here, be anywhere, is here. So he might as well. Because I'm not for nothing. I don't care for CM Punk's physical matches at his age because he's so elderly and it reflects on the way he moves sometimes. I'm here for his promos for more than anything. And I know it's going to be juicy if they give him the mic back in AEW. I know it's going to be juicy. It's going to be petty. I don't know if they're going to bring him back as a face or a heel because I don't know how fans are taking to him. We still have people polarized about this whole situation. People who are riding for Punk from beginning to end, and people like me who just want to turn the cheek, but at the same time, I'm still like seeing, like I'm still checking to see what's happening. I want to know. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. How about you?
Here's what I'm going to say about the possible return of CM Punk. I think it needs to happen. I think that even though there are some talent that may not be in favor of it, there are talents that are in favor of it. I saw an interview with Ricky Starks. He said that Punk is the man. Powerhouse Will Hobbs said that he's the man. So I think that the locker room may be split on the issue. I think that the fans are split on the issue. What I do know is that, in the words of Eric Bischoff, controversy creates cash. And Tony Khan has made a big bet as far as putting All In London in the Wembley Stadium, which can seat up to 60, 80. I don't know if it can seat up to 100,000. It's a stadium. It could seat more than the normal arena. Tony Khan has bet big on this venture, and I believe that if you want a good turnout for this show, you're going to need CM Punk.
Yeah, you need star power.
Like you need star power, and I feel like CM Punk is going to bring that star power. I think that you can set up a really, really big match for All In. And may I propose, and I think I said this months ago, and I got laughed at, FTR and CM Punk versus the Elite. Let's make it happen. That needs to happen. That's a big money match. That's a match that can go over really, really well in London for All In.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that you can build that story now, considering that the Elite are kind of reuniting and you have what you have of them. I think that it's the right move. But yeah, I think that CM Punk is probably going to return. I believe that the differences are reconcilable. And, we'll see what happens with them. But I think that Tony Khan needs to pull the trigger. He needs to talk to whoever he needs to talk to and just be like, hey, y'all, listen, this is what's going to happen. And if y'all got any problems, y'all can see me. But we have a show in London. We need to do what we can to pack that stadium out because we need to yield some big returns. So it's a yay for me for CM Punk returning to AEW. But we want to know how y'all feel. Let us know if you want CM Punk to come back to AEW. Let us know in the comments below. So, speaking of returns, they are not the only entity that is back in AEW. There's two, and we're going to be talking about them in the next upcoming segments. Number one is their best friends, FTR. Dax Harwood has confirmed that they are not only have they re-signed with AEW, but they have signed 4-year deals. And at the end of those 4-year deals, they will retire. And he actually had a comment on, I believe, a recent podcast. And he says this pertaining to working to Vince McMahon. I felt that working for Vince, I was just a number. Vince has taught his minions underneath him into thinking everyone is replaceable and everyone is just an object, and he places these objects where he wants to. We're not. Maybe in wrestling we are objects, but wrestling should be just a percentage, a small percentage of what your life is. For better or worse, that's how Vince runs his business. I was just a number, just an object to Vince. To Tony, I am a human being. He cares about me, my feelings, my family. Working for someone like that obviously is going to make our decision much easier when comparing and contrasting to a person who just has us as a number. Interesting comments. How do you feel about FTR re-signing these 4-year deals? How do you feel about these comments about Vince McMahon?
Honestly, like the what he described in general, I think is how anyone feels, in real life, with your job, with my job, with anyone's job. You want to feel like regardless where you go, you are appreciated, because not for nothing, your job is at least 1/3 of your life, depending on how much you work, maybe more, maybe less. And you identify with that. It's kind of like your other home away from home. And who wants to be in a home that's not happy, that's dysfunctional, you
Right.
know? And I feel like no matter how old we get, we want to be told that we're doing well. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel like what we're putting in, we're getting something back out of. Don't nobody want to sit there and work their behind off and just be snubbed and be like at the bottom of the food chain, and you just feel like, as he described, a number. You know what I mean? No one wants to feel like they're replaceable. Not when it comes to your family, not when it comes to your friends, sure as hell not your job. So I feel him when he said all of that. Because one thing about me is that if I don't feel like I'm appreciated where I'm at, I will pack it up and go. That goes for anything and anyone. So that being said, I feel him and I understand the resigning. And we can see it as fans through the screen, who is being appreciated, who's not being appreciated, who's going out there on the show, and it's like, the lights are on but no one's home type of deal, and they're just going through the motions because they just want to pay their bills, but they're not happy here. We see that with the fans, with the wrestlers as fans. So honestly, I feel him. I agree with his decision. I'm happy that he is happy where he's at. And I feel like, as a fan myself, that's all I care about when it comes to like me and my favorites. Like a lot of people, you can use Sasha for that example. A lot of people are saying, well, the most relevant she was when she was back in WWE. She doesn't get the engagement on social media that she used to get when she's back in WWE. But it's like, okay, but is Mercedes happy? She posted her boss. She just posted her boss yesterday.
Right.
All happy, saying this is my boss. You know what I mean? Like you could tell she's happy where she's at. Sometimes it's not about how much you're making. It's about like, how do you feel? What are you getting back for what you're putting in? So good for him. Good for the resigning. Anything else you want to add?
So I definitely want to piggyback off of your point, because I think it's valid, and I think that wrestling fans need to hear this, because I think that not just in the world of wrestling, but in the world of sports and entertainment, I think that it's very, very easy to kind of dehumanize a lot of performers into thinking that they don't have the same needs and wants and desires as people who may work a regular 9 to 5, in the sense that work environment matters, work culture matters, and you want to be in an environment and in relationships that make you feel affirmed and appreciated and wanted and special. And it's not different for any professional wrestler. Pro wrestlers want to go where they can be themselves, where they want to be appreciated, where they don't feel like they're just a part of a machine. And I feel like you can see that in these comments. And I also believe that the work culture directly affects the product that you see on screen. You can make the argument that AEW has a great product on screen, and a big reason for that is because of the culture that Tony Khan has created backstage. Because Tony Khan makes people feel special, makes people feel wanted, makes people feel invited and warm, you're going to bring out things in people that they probably didn't have at their old job or their old place of business, because they feel better here than they did elsewhere. And like you said, you know what I'm saying? Like, Mercedes is happy. Mercedes is showing off her boss. And it's like, when you look at the landscape of pro wrestling and you look at how guys are just extremely passionate, it's not just because of they love wrestling. It's because they're finally in a place where they feel like they can be themselves, where they feel happy, where they feel welcome and wanted, and they feel comfortable. And I feel like we're seeing that Dax values that environment and that culture here at AEW. As far as them signing their new deals, I think it's very, very smart. I think that them kind of going on this little run that they've been going on over the past year and a half has showed FTR that Tony Khan is willing to give them the creative control, the flexibility to literally put together the run of a lifetime. They were the IWGP Tag Team Champions. They were the AAA Tag Team Champions. They were the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. They were the last match for the Briscoes, which is probably a set of opportunities that wouldn't have been available to them if they were to just be in WWE. And now they hold the AEW World Tag Team Champions, and the sky's the limit. They can still work with people in Impact. They can still work with people in AEW. They can still work with people in Ring of Honor and AAA. So I think that also factored into their decision. But, I can definitely see why FTR signed those new 4-year deals. And I think that it's great that they are in a position where they're in an environment where they feel welcome and that they feel good. I think that that's the most important thing for them. So, but yeah, that's my little thing on FTR. Let us know how you feel about them being back or re-signing to All Elite Wrestling. But we're moving on to the next return, which is the charismatic enigma. I said charismatic enigma. I'm crying. The charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy has returned to All Elite Wrestling. He came out last night, obviously in the middle of an attack segment. Wanted to know, is this a risky move on behalf of AEW, considering his checkered past, considering how he ended up in this position in the first place? Is this too risky, or do you have full faith in Jeff Hardy to make this right?
Well, he did take a long, duration away from AEW. And I'm a person that does believe in change, and giving more than one chance. Give me one moment, I have to cough. I am back from my cough. As I was saying, I feel as though that if he could carry himself appropriately, then by all means, I am with Jeff Hardy coming back to wrestling. If he cannot, I want him to have just the self-awareness to know when to pull away. And I hope that it's been discussed between him and Tony Khan that, hey, I have a problem. I went away from my problem. However, I love pro wrestling and I want to be able to enjoy what is essentially a huge part of my life, something I identify with, but not make it something where I have to associate it with something so negative and therefore turn it into something negative. So I hope that while he's there, there's some accountability on his end, but also I just feel like I hope that they are setting him up in general and putting him in situations where he'll be less likely to either become addicted to any medications or to be, in a position where he's going to be tempted to want to drink. Like I would hope that there's been a talk here or maybe some form of counseling or something that's accessible in AEW, which I'm sure that they have that on standby, where it's just like he has like a resource to turn to if he feels like he's on edge or tempted. So I don't want to see him in like a picture where he's going to be like having such a demanding schedule to where like they're going to push Jeff Hardy into, wrestling and they can't pull him out because the storyline calls for it. I want him to be in a position where it's just like he's kind of just coasting through and he's easing himself into it just so he can get his feet wet and just fully adjust and just utilize whatever he learned in rehab and apply it to his day-to-day life. Because I would hate for someone who I watched as a child grow up just constantly just turn down this hole where it's just like, again, something that you grew to have a passion for, you identify with, like wrestling is something he lives and breathes in, both him and Matt Hardy. I would hate for it to be something where it's just like in the same breath, like not so much kryptonite, but just so much so something that is going to, you do a little bit of it and it's going to just push you in a bad place. I don't want to see Jeff in a bad place. So that's how I just feel about it. I just want to see him to do well, to be good. I know I slandered him before. I just want everyone to be okay. Him and his family and his loved ones. I just want him to be okay. But obviously that comes with a lot of just like willpower to want to do better. And from what I've seen, at least when he came out for those very few minutes that he did on AEW, it looked like he looked refreshed. He looked like he was in great shape. He looked a little bit younger actually than the pictures that was going around on social media. I kind of got the vibes. I'm like, all right, like Jeff looks happy. Let's keep it that way. That's all I feel. Be healthy, be happy, Jeff. That's all I care about. I want to see Jeff around for a long time. I want to see his family around for a long time. He is my childhood.
Right.
How do you feel?
I was going to say, to piggyback off of what you're saying, I think I'd speak for every wrestling fan, every sane human wrestling fan, when I say that we're all rooting for Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
He has been an integral part of this business and our individual and collective childhoods for the better part of 20 to 25 years. He is, in my opinion, one of the greatest high flyers of all time. He is a part of one of the greatest tag teams of all time, one of the most decorated pro wrestlers of all time, one of the most influential pro wrestlers of all time. And I believe that he still has a lot to give to this business. However, I think that it is safe to say that I can see where someone can hesitate to bring him back because, unfortunately, he has done things that have put him in a position where he has been a liability, whether that be in WWE, whether that be in TNA/Impact, or now in AEW. And I hope that this is the last time that we can say that thing, as far as like, all right, this is another chance. Let's see how this goes. I really just hope that Jeff is happy and that Jeff is healthy. I'm glad to see him back, but I think that as a concerned fan and just like a human being, I just want him to be well off and I want him to be good. And I think that seeing him last night was great. I think that there's still, work to be, things that we need to see. But all in all, I just hope that Jeff is well and that Jeff is happy. But I think I speak for all wrestling fans when I say that we're rooting for Jeff Hardy. So, but yeah, we want to know how y'all feel about the return of Jeff Hardy to pro wrestling. Let us know in the comments below how you feel. But that concludes today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.